First, though, of course, the big news this morning. And by the way, good morning to you, Kelley Bydlon. I didn't even say good morning to you.
Good morning.
Very, very poor form on my part. In case you missed this morning, in case you were asleep, in case you were trapped under a heavy object, Deshaun Watson out for the season for the Cleveland Browns. He will undergo season-ending surgery to repair a fracture in his throwing shoulder. He was already he'll be placed on injured reserve. He was already dealing with what we were speculating was a high ankle sprain. And if Kelley, if you went to the Cleveland Browns Twitter and just read their statement about it, and I'll get to it here because, of course, it just went away from me on my phone. But if you read it, it's like this. Detailed. It was sort of like this. We want to make him into the hero that he was, and God forbid he sues us if anything.
Yeah, like it needed a game recap in there somehow. Yeah.
Said Deshaun Watson underwent magnetic resonance imaging (MRI) Monday on 2 injuries sustained on different plays in the first half of Sunday's 33-31 win over the Ravens. Imaging on his left ankle revealed a high ankle sprain. In addition, post-game, Deshaun notified our medical staff. Remember, they said post-game there, of our medical staff, of new discomfort in his right shoulder that he felt after a hit in the first half. An MRI, of the right shoulder revealed a displaced fracture to the glenoid, despite performing at a high level and finishing the game after consultation with head physician James Voos and industry-leading shoulder specialist Neil El Attaché, MD. It has been determined that this injury will require immediate surgical repair to avoid further structural damage. Deshaun will be placed on season-ending IR, and a full recovery is expected for the start of the 2024 season. So basically it's like, hey, we didn't know anything about it during the game. And if that's the case, and he wasn't shot up, if you will, that was a heroic performance by Deshaun Watson in getting that win, that come-from-behind win over the Ravens. Now, what does this mean? Well, first of all, what does it mean with Deshaun Watson? Deshaun Watson will have played 12 NFL games since the pandemic when he returns next year. So he missed, remember that year where he was still with Houston and they just made him inactive all year long. So he missed all of that in 2021. 2022, the allegations came. He was suspended for 11 games. He played the final 6 last year, which was sort of this weird, strange exhibition-like thing almost with him. My interpretation, no one else's. And then this year, injury-riddled, and now it's 6 games complete this year. So 12 games since the pandemic. That is what his career has cratered into beyond all the off-the-field stuff. And so where does this leave us with bets?
Real quick, Gill.
Yes, sir.
The wording from the Browns on this.
This was my point. Yes.
Is interesting because it's extremely detailed, right? With really pointing out, because I've been one of those people, right, that have been wondering and speculating, and I'm not the only one, of how injured has Deshaun Watson been all season. They're very specific to point out that this was something new in game in this game. That
they were only informed of after the fact.
Right, afterward.
They are really protecting themselves in that statement, it feels like.
Yes, I agree with that. And then I guess I'm just surprised they're willing to go that far because they don't need to say all this. They don't need to say all this.
They didn't need to say all that. It's a very interesting statement.
And for a guy that I think a lot of people have believed has been banged up and working through some things all season, if that better not be true then. Like, this better just be the only new injury if you're going to make a statement like this.
This is why I read it, because I found it so interesting, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean from a betting standpoint? First of all, this was one of the 2 games that I liked during guessing lines, but the last thing we said on the show yesterday was the reason I only made 1 bet instead of the 2 in the account is because we didn't know what Deshaun's status was anyway for this week in their game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so now that line has gone from north of 3, it was 4 most of the week, 4 in favor of the Browns. It has gone through the 3. It is either at 2.5 or 2 in favor of the Browns, -2 or -2.5, depending on where you're betting these days. At this moment, I should say. Hosting the Steelers on Sunday morning with P.J. Walker, Pajama Walker, as your starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. The total, by the way, is 34, it should be pointed out. To the question of, do I like, as someone who liked the Browns, if it were Deshaun at 4, do I like them with P.J. Walker at below 3? The answer is I do. actually. I really do.
I was waiting for you to say no so I can come back on the other side. I'm with you.
No.
I'm with you.
I kind of like it as much, if not better,
so
quite frankly.
This is where point spreads matter, right? You're going through the 3.
Yes.
That is a major move in the NFL with a total this short, too. So is there that big of a difference between what we've seen out of Deshaun Watson this year and Walker?
It ain't your average 1.5-point move is the point.
Right.
It's through the 3. I like it just as much. Let's put it that way. I like it just as much. The Browns, for me, that's going to be a bet. It's going to be a contest play. It's going to be all of that. The other sort of more macro look on this is here you have a 4-team division where, this was the most competitive division in all of football to this point this year. But, and I think I represent most people when I say this, the Steelers, sort of the mirage 6-3, right? The sort of smoke and mirrors. We've been outgained in every single game this year. Yet the Mike Tomlin Magic Beans have them at 6-3. So I don't think, I'm not going to speak for everybody because there are going to be some people who think the Steelers have a shot at this division. I do not, right? I also don't think a P.J. Walker-led Browns team is to be taken as seriously as the other 2 teams in the division, which are the Ravens and the Bengals, who happen to play tomorrow night. Now, keep in mind, when you look at the standings in this division, the Ravens right now have the lead despite their loss, right? They have their lead. They have the lead in the AFC North currently going into this game. They're 7-3. Pittsburgh and Cleveland 6-3. Cincinnati 5-4. Baltimore wins this game, and they are favored as the home team here by 3.5 points. Baltimore will win the season series against Cincinnati. They will sweep the Bengals, as if you buy into the I don't take the P.J. Walker-led Browns seriously and I don't take the Magic Bean Steelers seriously, that would in essence then be a de facto 2.5. That would be a 2.5 game lead in the standings over the Bengals, but in essence, it would be a 3.5 game lead over the Bengals because of the sweep of the season series. Yes, would you have to worry about the Browns and the Steelers, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So that game tomorrow night becomes a massive thing, and if you want to get ahead of that, you can get the Ravens. If you buy into that train of thought, you can get the Bengals right now as good as even money in some spots. We're seeing minus 115 at DraftKings.
Yeah, 115 reposted at DraftKings. Ravens minus 115. Bengals plus 400. Steelers plus 425. Browns plus 450.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a bet. I really do.
I think it's a bet either way. It's all correlated to this game because I completely agree with how you set that up. Right, this is like Matt and I will often talk about this. Matt Brown and I will often talk about this when you get into division races like this. It becomes a golf matchup, right? I don't really think the Browns are live in this division anymore. I don't really think the Steelers are live in this division. So you're basically playing. I think there's only 2 teams left. And they happen to play tomorrow night for this division. So I think if you like the Bengals on this side tomorrow night, you probably are sprinkling some on 4-1 or something in the division. And if you like the Ravens side in that game tomorrow night, you're definitely playing that at the even money or minus 115.
And I get it. The Ravens schedule is still difficult even beyond the Bengals. But the point of that is they go, in essence, with a win tomorrow, they would go, in essence, from a 1.5 game lead in the division, which is what it is right now, to a really a de facto 3.5 game lead over their primary contender. Now, if you're a Steelers person or if you're a Browns person, even with P.J. Walker, okay, you can choose to ignore that. I get it. That's one standpoint. I just don't have that viewpoint on the thing.
No, me either.
And I don't think most people do either. So and the Ravens, to me, in that respect, kind of cheap at that price.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I'm one of the people that I don't have a bet yet on this game tomorrow night. I do think I'm going to end up taking a piece of the Bengals and over a field goal. I think this is kind of their last stand. This is everything they've got going into this week. They got to win.
They're great historically as a dog with Joe Burrow. Great.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I know both sides are dealing with major injuries, but Cincinnati's are more serious with the defensive ends, the wide receivers that they've got. But I was probably going to back them small at least tomorrow night anyways, Gill. And I think if you're doing that, you got to throw a little bit on the division price, too. And Ravens, same thing.
12 games he will have played, Deshaun Watson, when he suits up next year in 2024, since the pandemic. That is 12 games more than you, Kelley Bydlon. And it would have been fewer had you not incurred that torn calf injury on field goal day.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's amazing. And by the way, and every one of those $253 million is guaranteed. They're on the hook, the Browns, for every penny of that.
I'm going to be a sucker, though, next year. I believed in Deshaun this year, coming back and looking more like the old Deshaun Watson. I'm going to believe it again next year when betting odds are even longer.
Oh, I think we'll all be there.
Yeah.
I'm with you. You're right. We'll all kind of still be tempted by it. Kelley, we have breaking news on top of breaking news. So earlier this morning, about an hour before we were on the air, the Browns announced that Deshaun Watson was out for the season. With a shoulder injury, and that is the case. We assumed, and you know what they say about assuming, Kelley, it makes a decision regretful, is what I think is what they say about assuming. Yeah. We assumed that it would be the great P.J. Walker as the Browns starting quarterback this weekend. Guess what? This from Jordan Schultz, NFL insider at the Bleacher Report. The Browns are planning to start rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback this week versus the Steelers, barring a last-minute change of heart. Sources tell Bleacher Report P.J. Walker would be DTR's backup. The team announced earlier this morning that Deshaun Watson will undergo season-ending shoulder surgery. Now,
also seeing a couple tweets come down that Deshaun Watson is going to be available in the locker room today to speak with the media.
Oh, that'll be fun.
That feels a little odd, too. This whole thing feels odd.
What's the opposite of a riveting interview? Because that's what he is.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Now,
what are you going to ask him? He's going to be like, my shoulder hurts.
DTR played that one game this year. I know he was in another game. He had spot duty in another game. But he played the Ravens, and he was dreadful.
God-awful. Yes.
He had a 25.3 rating. That's not the 1 out of 100. That's the 1 out of 158.3. He had a 25.3 rating in the game. He had no touchdown passes. He had 3 picks and completed 52.8% of his passes, only 121 yards through the air. Why are they – this is curious to me.
I mean, it's one of those, this is chance number 2 from him, right? I mean, he was their backup, so they gave him a shot. It was so terrible they had to go to Walker, and now I guess it's – we got to see if we got something here with this kid or not.
Wait a minute, but do you want to get into that mode when you are right? You are having you look at the standings, you're having a great year. You're trying to make the postseason. You've got a great defense. You're still only, a half game behind the Ravens?
Yep, yeah. Yeah, I believe so.
This is a game, a home game against the Steelers. By the way, the Steelers are just Jedi mind tricking everybody. And the Steelers get the Deshaun Watson injury, and then they were like, now we will make them start DTR. How?
Yeah, there is also that though. Like that is it's a good defense that you're throwing a even more inexperienced quarterback.
I do not understand this.
Yeah, it is not the decision I would make. That's for sure.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.